I thought it would be fun to show you all of my current sketchbooks that I work in, because I like to have multiple sketchbooks to draw different things in, and I also like to have different sizes to play around. Currently it's absolutely pouring outside and it's only 5 o'clock, but it looks really dark, and I thought it's the perfect day to have a cozy little video. So these are all of the sketchbooks I have laid out on my desk. I have a couple of these that I have barely started, so I'll get those out of the way first. I have two of the art creation sketchbooks in the really small size. This is the one I'm currently using the most at the moment, and this was a present from a friend, and I'm planning to start using this as soon as I'm finished this one. Now I've got a Paul Rubens water book, and the paper it's very textured, which I'm not used to, so I only done one painting on this because I'm still figuring out how to use it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Then there is this Strathmore mixed media tone paper, which I picked up in Paris, and I've used one page for an Inktober prompt, which I actually have a full video on the process behind some of my Inktober prompts. And I really like using tone paper, and this is a great paper. It has a nice thickness, but I want to paint on it rather than to draw on it because I feel like it's a bit of a waste to draw on it, so I'm waiting for some painting projects to come in mind. Now I use these a bit more regularly, so I'll just start out with this little one. Okay, so I had to lower my tripod a bit because this is quite a small sketchbook, and I picked up this sticker in Portugal. Actually, it was in Porto, and I was wandering around the streets and I popped into this little art store, and they had lots of stickers, and yeah, I also bought this sketchbook in Portugal and I started using it while I was living there for a few months. And I think this first page tells you everything about it because I was living in Lisbon and I started it in the Math Museum. So if you're ever in Lisbon, check it out. And this was a plant I had at work while I was working there, and I really liked it, so I put it in my sketchbook. Then while living in Lisbon, I visited Sintra, which is about 40 minutes on train. It's a beautiful mountain area and they have lots of castles and cute villages, and I also bought some gouache. So this was kind of a way of testing the gouache I bought and putting my trip down on paper so I can remember it. Then I was on train one day and there was this lady sitting in front of me, so I had some colored pencils with me and I started sketching her, and this was the view from the train, but from a different train, which is a bit funny. They have this really nice bridge which is actually engineered by the same people who engineered the San Francisco Bridge in America. Then I think this was actually on the same train journey. I was thinking back of my time living in England, and I remember the White Cliffs of Dover, and I started sketching it with fine liners. This page is not particularly my favorite, and I really hated this portrait, so I covered it up with a different drawing. And here I just wanted to give liners another go because I thought they could be quite nice for doing a bit more detailed work. Then this was from a beach trip which me and my partner went on, and it was actually a very cloudy day. You couldn't go swimming and the waves were quite big, so we just sat on the beach and there were some washed up branches, and I just decided to start drawing them. Then I put some watercolors when we got back into our accommodation.
Now this is where I'm starting to love this sketchbook. I started using a lot of colored pencils, and initially I started illustrating some songs, and this is inspired by Cage the Elephant, but in all honesty I just wanted to draw some funky portraits, and I really love the combination of colors in a lot of these. Then this is again Cage the Elephant, and I really love this spread. It's one of my favorite spreads I've done this year. I was a bit unsure about my style at the time, and I was also using a lot of boxes to put behind my drawings, and this felt very free and just lots of fun doing it. So then I tried to redo the same thing again, and it didn't look right. And this was actually from a video I have on my channel called Illustrating Songs in My Sketchbook, so you can see the full process of the next few pages in that video. And then I wanted to break out from these portraits because I knew I wasn't going to get it right then, so I just did a train journey inspired by another song, and I really like this. It's more like a cityscape. Also, it's worth mentioning this sketchbook doesn't take watercolors the best, but you can still use watercolors for studies and stuff, and I quite enjoy having some washes of watercolor, and I quite like what happened there. Okay, then this was another song I illustrated, and we went to see the most easterly point in Europe, I think it was, and the scenery was really pretty, and I think a lot of the times you kind of have to stop dreaming about the things you want to do and start doing it, so that was kind of my take on this. And then I was just having a little fun. I would love to make this into a birthday card. I think that would be really cute. And now this is again from a picture from Sintra of some trees, and this is I did actually quite a few months after I was actually back in England, and I knew I had this page free, and I just started doodling one evening, and it's one of my favorite things I've done. It's just so free and so loose, and I wasn't even thinking of anything. I just took out my supplies and started doodling. So this is when I was getting back into my portrait groove, and I'll have a few pages of this. I was getting back to using color pencils, and I was trying to get different textures and shading, and I was using a bit of gouache in the background, and I was trying some different fun elements to tie the spreads together. I was concentrating more on having some coherent spreads to use for future painting ideas. And then the same style, I was trying here to actually make a full painting only using gouache, because I was still testing all of the gouaches I bought. It's not my favorite, but I think as a spread it's quite fun, and it almost looks a bit like a still from a comic book. With this, I bought a t-shirt that had the Oleanders by Van Gogh as a print, and I really wanted to just have a go at drawing this in my sketchbook. It was just an evening doodle, and I used liners and then used a bit of watercolor. Now this seems to be a favorite from a lot of people. I think it's the blue color of the hair. It's very striking and it really pulls your eye towards it, and also I used the primary colors on the portrait itself. Okay, this was a bit more silly. This song was everywhere, so it kind of felt like the writing was fitting the drawing. And this is another favorite of mine. I really enjoyed how I laid this one together, and I really like the textures that are on the eye and the scribbleness of everything. Then a bit more here, trying to incorporate more backgrounds and try different things, play with textures. Same here. Her proportions are a bit off, but I do like how I used the pencils. I think that created a really nice effect. And this is kind of the end of that portrait era. Now I started using a lot of stationery items, which I also have a video on. And this was using a fountain pen, and I really enjoyed using fountain pen. There's something quite nice about it. And this is from my trip to France. I took the ferry from Dover, and you have like 2 hours until you get to France, so this is what I sketched on the ferry. And then this is on the other side in France, it's Etretat. Now another drawing slash painting on location from a really nice village in France. And this is actually an Inktober prompt. It's a bit of a spoiler because it's towards the end of the month, but it's here because I had this empty page, so I just doodled it with fountain pen with green ink, which was quite fun. I did really enjoy it. Now this is a drawing on the ferry on the way back. This is my partner, and he always complains that I never draw him, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw you right now. And yeah, these are some Inktober prompts. This is one of my favorites actually. I'm really happy with the shading. And I actually had a go at the Peachtober prompt as well. Some more again with fountain pen and acrylic ink for the washes. And I think this is where, oh, just a small sketch there. And this is pretty much it. I always do random stuff at the end of my sketchbooks, but I still have this many pages left, and I'm excited to finish this one. Now into the next sketchbook. This is my watercolor sketchbook. I don't have too much in here because I like to keep these for more finalized watercolor paintings, but I will show you the few pages. So this is another travel spread from my time when I was living in Portugal, and it's again from Sintra, and this was a very nice palace that we visited, and there were some really beautiful plants in the garden. And here, this is not finished, but I was trying to do some studies of birds in watercolor. And this is a painting of a Parisian cafe. Now I really like this page. These were actual studies from Sarah Cray on Instagram. She's really brilliant with watercolors and using them really loosely and doing different techniques. So I was just following some of her reels while doing this, and I really enjoy the looseness of it, because that's one thing I want with my watercolors. I want to be a bit more loose. And that was another study from it, which I was trying some few different things. I even put some leaves down, and from that color palette I started working on this, and I'm probably going to extend it on the next page as well. And that's about, oh no, that's not about it. I have another study here of a tree, but I think that's it for this sketchbook. Yep. And I am enjoying taking this one slow and looking at some of the ideas and some of the studies that are in here. Now this is a SEAWHITE sketchbook, if I'm not mistaken. I had this for years, and I started it when I was trying to get back into art. I think it's about 3 years ago, and then I recently picked it up again for some of my Inktober prompts because I wanted white paper, because I use the Royal Talens sketchbooks, which are a bit yellowish. I think you can see the comparison here. I still quite like this as an idea. I could definitely do the proportions much better now. Then this one, yeah, I can't really say much about it or about this one. Oh, and then there you go, another portrait of my partner that I messed up the eyes really badly, and another one which I messed up the proportions really badly, but not all of your art needs to be pretty, and I think this is a good sign that your sketchbooks are for messier stuffs as well. I think here I was experimenting with ballpoint pen on top of gouache. It didn't really work out the way I wanted, but it's an experiment. Another experimentation here. I'll skip some pages, and yeah, these are my Inktober prompts. I'll just quickly go through it because there's a full video about this and I don't want to take too much time. This is one of my favorite prompts, and another cute one for snacks, and I think, yeah, that's it, just some random notes and stuff. And here I was trying to make my fountain pens work, so that's a trend, I just do random stuff at the end of my sketchbooks. Next I have another sketchbook I started years ago. I think it's been about 5 years, and I wanted to pick up again. I wrote my name here for some reason, and then this is a drawing my partner made of me, and I think I look very, very beautiful. And then I was testing some inks on the cover. Yeah, after I did that painting for Peachtober, I had lots of leftover paint, and I decided to have a go with sparkle because I also had these metallic watercolors that I wanted to try, and I really like this. This is something I want to do more in this sketchbook because the paper handles it quite well, and I want to do lots of experimentations of color. And now we're going back into like 5 years ago. I was trying to experiment with my shading, and I really liked to draw hair at the time, I remember. Here is just more of a graphic page. Maybe I will just finish it all off and maybe add some color. This is a... Oh, you can't see that one very well. Maybe... It's a tree from my estate. It's a bit stylized. Another portrait. I always love to draw portraits. They've never been successful, but recently I think my portraiture has gotten much better. I didn't even finish that one. A car I didn't even finish. And this was from my interior architecture course. That's my degree. And I was just trying to visualize some spaces in this sketchbook. But I would really like to pick up this sketchbook and finish it because I quite like it. I like using it. Yeah, some more interior ideas, and I think I tried a challenge, yeah, like a 30-day drawing challenge about 3 years ago on this. I probably wouldn't say it was the most successful. I think I only did about 7 days of drawings. I don't know what this was meant to be. It's an idea. I did quite a few days of it actually. I wish I would have been, at the time I would have actually played a bit with using a sketchbook, not just drawn just one thing in the middle of the page. But I think this is great looking back at this because you can definitely see I was using my sketchbooks in a different way, and I wasn't quite as creative as I consider myself now. I have more ideas in terms of things, and yeah, just more random doodles. This also for a bit was my drawing sketchbook where I was just trying out different things, and I was actually explaining some stuff to a friend about light and shadow and how to construct objects. Oh, and this was just an exercise. It was one of those exercises to try before you draw to loosen up your hand. I had my time of being really into trees, and I really wanted to get how to draw trees, and I think this is it. I used to have a habit of doing stuff in the back because when I was drawing stuff that I wasn't quite sure of it, I was doing it to the back so I don't ruin the sketchbook. It's not something I do anymore, but it's funny how we are afraid to use our sketchbooks sometimes. Next, this is a watercolor pad, and I think I finished this, but I like to keep it here because I like the paper on this. It's really cheap paper, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll just quickly go through this. These were more just watercolor studies. This was trying to be loose again, as I was mentioning earlier. It's something I want to bring into my watercolor practice, to be more loose with my art. This is an Easter illustration from last year. I did this on my trip to Madeira. Another play at that technique. I really wanted to get it down, so I did a lot of experiments for it. Another painting from my trip to Madeira on location. I don't like this one at all, but it's still nice to capture stuff on location. A pattern page, I would say. I really like this. I think this would make a really nice print. And I wanted to do something similar with peaches, but I didn't finish it up. Another try at a loose watercolor, and that's it. Now we're getting into my big art creation sketchbook. I think this is the biggest size they do. I do like to do a nice page, a nice front page for my sketchbooks, because it makes me want to draw more in them. This was another viewpoint from that Madeira painting I literally just showed you. And this is a plein air spread actually. I did the top here on my trip to Wales, and then this is from an art date with some of my friends, and I think this is not plein air, this is just I was trying to pull together everything, and I really like this. This is a fun idea. And then this was from a video of ideas that you can do in your sketchbook when you run out of ideas. It was something about collaging, and then this was about experimenting with different brush strokes and seeing what you can make with that. Then this is one of my favorites, friends, just because I really like dogs, and it was very fun searching for reference pictures and coming up with a bit of a composition for this. This one is from that period when I was into those type of portraits like this. I think you can kind of see the same style coming through, just on a larger scale, and I really enjoy this. I really like it. Now this page I wanted to try to paint only using gouache. I really enjoy this. It was a very nice thing to do in my sketchbook, to experiment. That's one thing about me and my sketchbooks. I like to use them to try new combinations, new materials. Probably some people will say this is too pretty for a sketchbook, but I just work this way. This inspires me then to go and work on maybe larger scale and really think about how these materials interact and how I can make them work. Now, I started doing this recently. Before, I would just fill up everything in my sketchbook. I would never skip a page, but this is something I do because I did this and I wanted to continue the page, but it wasn't the right time, and I'm still waiting to finish this page up. Stationery items, drawn with stationery and drawing the stationery. It's a fun little surprise here. Again, using stationery items to draw with. I really enjoy this illustration here with a ballpoint pen. These are all studies from paintings or sculptures in the Louvre. And now we're going back into some Inktober stuff. It was really fun just trying to do some studies of birds and then using some ink in here. And I want to take this down here because I think it fits. And I think that's it with this sketchbook as well. don't really have anything else in here. And my last thing that I use, which I think it's quite important for a lot of artists, a notebook. And I just write down ideas. I started this in my first year of uni, so I still keep it because one of our first tasks were to do some life drawing. And then I just have ideas written down and even to-do lists and stuff. And this is where I also planned for Inktober. I did most of my planning and I'm still doing most of it in here. And this is something I do in this one sometimes. When I'm trying to plan a composition, I really quickly just get the colors down to see how they would look. And that's it. That's all my current sketchbooks.
So this is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and let me know in the comments what was your favorite drawing or spread, and I hope I'll see you next week in my next video. Bye!